From Unity Church of Christianity in Houston, Texas, this is The Awakened Life with Reverend Howard Caesar. Unity is a non-denominational Christian church providing a positive, practical, and progressive approach to Christianity. Let's join the service in progress with the Reverend Howard Caesar.
And so, whatever is the healing dynamic that heals a small scratch, whatever that intelligence is, it's the same force, the same energy, the same divine intelligence, really, that can take care of anything, bigger things. It's the same presence, the same intelligence. It's the same life force. And so everything, in a sense, is in a state of healing. You came into this life, actually, for a progression of healing, to be healed yourself and also to contribute to the healing of humanity. There is a healing that goes on in relationships. There's a healing that goes on in people's bodies as they're challenged with different things that occur. And there is also a healing that is meant and intended to take place in the world as we lend our consciousness to the healing dynamics of all the ingredients that help assist that taking place. Because we're all interrelated and we're all interconnected. So healing is part of every person's life. And it is to be intentional, really, as well. So for today, though, I'd like to stay with healing as it relates to pretty much the individual. Because first, it is very helpful to lift our awareness around the magnificence of the human body itself in relation to the wisdom of the Creator. You know, this universal mind, this God, this Creator, the creative life force and intelligence out of which we originated, were created. It gave us a vehicle that we have come to call a body. And this body houses the spirit of us, the eternal spirit and essence of us. And this body is miraculous in what it is and what it does. It really is. I'd like to go over with you some thoughts and ideas around the makeup of the body that is so amazing. To start out with, a baby is born with 305 bones. But some of these bones fuse together over time, and you end up having approximately 206 bones. And those 206 or so bones are operated by 650 muscles and more than 100 joints. And the tendons that anchor the muscle to the bone are strong enough to stand stress of 8 tons per square inch. The thigh bone can take a strain of half a ton per square inch while walking. And the magnificent complex of God's machinery is encased in a flexible, waterproof covering. The skin, yeah. And the average man has 20 square feet of it, which wears away and actually is replaced every few weeks. You get new skin. And set in the skin are up to 5 million hairs. Each lasts about 3 years. And we all have approximately 9,000 taste buds that come to our aid for things like Thanksgiving. And anyway, those 9,000 taste buds are aided by millions of nerve cells, 4 million receptors in the skin enable us to feel and distinguish hot from cold and experience pain versus comfort. And as you know, to achieve all of these things that are going on and to move about with this human body, it requires that we need fuel. And so in the course of a lifetime, the average person consumes approximately 50 tons of food. Isn't that a great thought? And at least about 11,000 gallons of liquid. So I just ask or invite you, there's so many other things unique to the body, but just to think about how amazing it is, really, and think of it as the temple that you are, and how the activity of God is active in and through that physical body that is your temple, that is housing your eternal spirit. It is truly amazing. And the feats of life and creativity that are going on inside of us at this very moment without us having to even think about it. Just consider your heart. Placed in your chest is this organ of tremendous flexibility and durability and strength. It pumps approximately 5 quarts of blood on a round trip through your body, about once every minute. And every year your heart beats somewhere around 30 to 40 million times. Wow, that is amazing. And now think about your cells. Do you realize how many red cells are created new every minute? Every minute. 120 million red cells are created in you every minute. That means 2 million per second. A second goes by, and you've had 2 million red cells created like that. Consider the other instruments of the physical body, the eyes, the ears, the complexity of one's brain. And science tells us that there is a light at the center of every atom in the body. So when Jesus said that we were the light of the world, he meant it literally, that there is a light that lives at the core of every cell. And there are some people who have said, I don't believe in miracles. I've never, seen a miracle. Well, we are a miracle. We are a living, breathing, walking, talking miracle. Just stop and think about that. What is going on inside of us, and the complexity and system upon system of a whole system is amazing. This body is an awesome gift, and there's a life force that is at the core of it. And biblically, we are told that it is our temple. The Apostle Paul, the way he said it, he put it as a question. He said, "Do you not know that you are God's temple and that God's Spirit dwells in you?" That's something to really recognize and ponder and think. In the creation story, after each thing was created, it was pronounced good. So there is a creative goodness, really, that is inherent in each of us. Something good is happening moment to moment. Whether it's red blood cells, your brain working, your hearing, your ears, there's so much going on, system upon system. It's amazing when you think about it. In the book of James, it says, every good endowment and every perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights. The light is at the core of every cell. Now, an important factor in health and wholeness is the role that the mind plays, okay? And what we teach is that as in mind, so in manifestation. Thoughts held in mind produce after their kind. What gets your attention gets you. Different ways of saying this. And there are different things that evidence the role that the mind plays in relationship to the body. That's not something new, of course. But just to give you an idea, there was one woman who tells about her little girl that was, she was saying goodbye to her, and she was having to walk through this big gate, into, I don't know, some building or structure. But she saw her daughter closing the gate, and she thought that it had slammed on her hand. And this just went through the mother. And this thought and the image of her her hand being crushed in that gate closing. The child had withdrawn her fingers before it happened, and the mother actually felt pain in her hand. That's how sensitive this mother was. And the next day, she had a black mark, a bruised mark across her hand where she had imagined the image of her child being slammed in this gate. There's another story from years ago I came across about the power of the mind upon the body. There's a fellow who was joining some sort of secret group, and in the initiation, they were doing, it's crazy, but this is what it said, is that they told him that they were going to use a red hot iron and brand him with the word on his back, coward. And so they blindfolded him, and they didn't use a red hot iron, they used ice. And but he thought it was a red hot iron, and as a result, his back blistered up to form the word coward on his back. The point of all those kinds of stories and others is that whatever idea you accept with your mind, you accept with your body. Just know that. They're interconnected. Whatever idea that you accept with your mind, you accept with your body. And we know that the mind is superior to the body in the sense that the body cannot heal the mind. But the mind contributes to the healing of the body. It certainly can. That there is wisdom in the body. You see, you don't have to stop and think and tell it what to do. It's doing all this already, okay? And so it is biased in favor of health and wholeness. And back in 1932, there was Professor Cannon of the Harvard University. He published his classic book back then called The Wisdom of the Body. And in it, he maintained that, and he described how the body maintained its physiological health through a process he termed homeostasis. And you've heard of the word homeostasis, of course, but that's where it came from, was this professor from Harvard University back in 1932. And he also said that the capacity of the body to maintain homeostatic wellness or wholeness requires the feedback processes throughout the body to be connected. And that the information that is traveling along this feedback highway network be fluid and, most importantly, accurate. Because there is a mind-body connection, I think it's important that the information that you hold in your consciousness is accurate and that it be filled with the truth of God and the truth of who you are, as opposed to holding ideas and thoughts and beliefs that are in any way erroneous or defeating or limiting. And that's why it's so important. And even though the gate slamming on the child's hand was not accurate, it created a condition for that woman. And even though a red-hot iron was not used, but ice instead, the information was not accurate, but it created a condition on the back of that guy. Some of you remember the name Bernie Siegel. Bernie Siegel is a well-known surgeon and an author of a number of books, and one of the books that he wrote was Love, Medicine, and Miracles. And he traveled around the country as a surgeon and as a speaker based on his findings of patients and the healing processes. And he would speak to doctors at various hospitals. He would speak at various places. He came here and spoke a couple of times in the 80s and 90s. He's an interesting guy. But in his book, he stated, said this: "My own day-to-day clinical experience has convinced me that the state of mind changes the state of the body by working through the central nervous system, the endocrine system, and the immune system. Thus, all healing is scientific, even if science can't yet explain exactly how the unexpected miracles occur." It goes on to say that exceptional patients take charge of their lives, even if they were never able to before, and they work hard to achieve health and peace of mind. Peace of mind is very important. Get into the framework and the energy of ease takes you away from dis-ease. Now, Norman Cousins, some of you have heard of Norman Cousins, again, very well known among New Thought circles, but he was a man that was editor of the Saturday Review for 35 years. He also authored 17 books, and back in 1965, he himself was faced with a serious collagen illness, a disease of the connective tissue that made him stiff and increasingly immobile. And his chances of recovery were said to be 1 in 500. And so Norman Cousins had learned from Hans Selye how negative emotions affect the body. So he was looking for a way to counter that in his healing. And so what he did was he went and he found all kinds of Alan Funt candid camera movies and the classics of various humorous films and what have you, and he just wanted to enter into the energies of joy and laughter. And he said that for him, 10 minutes of a good belly laugh was enough to give him 2 hours of sleep for a body, he said, that felt like every bone had been crushed. that was the symptoms he was dealing with. And the important thing is that he also listened to his intuition. You see, he was looking for ways to help the healing along and to see what he could do. And his intuition said, you know, he felt that his body, by his body becoming rigid and immobile, was somehow an indication or a message of something that needed to be changed in him. And so to become, he thought, emotionally less rigid, he needed to loosen up a bit with laughter and be less serious. And he was just looking at what was the makeup of him that was contributing a message through the body to him as feedback for change that needed to happen within the framework of who he was and how he showed up and what were the ideas and beliefs and ways of living that he was about. And it resulted in a tremendous healing for him. And it's documented, and he has gone around and spoke to that. Now, Bernie Siegel, I mentioned earlier, he was the surgeon, and he was an interesting speaker. And I was at a dinner one time where he was being given an award. And at the award, when he got up to speak, in his talk, he said, he told about a patient that he had. And this patient had some disease, and the man just wanted to die. He said the man just had this very sincere desire to just die and have it over with. And his illness got to where the doctors finally told him it was bad enough that he only had a few days to live. And he was so happy about it that he got well. But back to Norman Cousins again, the guy that used laughter to get out of his stiffness. He pointed out that there are there are things that have therapeutic value, things that you know and you've heard, but he found that hope and faith, the will to live, cheerfulness, humor, of course, creativity, getting into creative endeavors, playfulness, confidence, that all of these things have therapeutic value. They should be a part of our life to begin with. So our mind plays an important role in our healing process, or in the maintaining of wellness, really. And one could say that the body is biased in favor of wholeness, but because the mind is superior to the body, and the body cannot heal the mind can be the cause of disturbing the natural balances of the systems of the body. Okay? I learned a lot from studying the manuscripts and the teachings of Phineas Parker Quimby. Phineas Parker Quimby was a man who showed up and did a lot of work in the middle 1800s. And he brought out, to a great extent, how the mind, when we latch onto an opinion or latch onto a particular belief, how these things buried in our unconscious can create disease if they're, again, error-based and not truth-based. Back to the importance of accuracy in what you are telling yourself. And so he stressed the idea that disease cannot exist independent of a body, okay? And he means that the disease is not out there somewhere lurking trying to get you, that it cannot exist independent of the body. It requires a body, but not just a body, okay? A body with a mind that has come to believe in disease, or it has issues and charges buried inside the unconscious that they haven't dealt with, that they're lugging along and are at the effect of, that they haven't healed or resolved. And Quimby would say that disease is the disturbance of the mind which alters the fluids of the body. That was his archaic way of saying it back in the mid-1800s. It is this disturbance of the mind, the natural balances which alters the fluids of the body. And there are lots of things, of course, in our life today that challenge us, that put us into stress, that if not dealt with and not balanced with enough humor and ease and joy and creativity, can disturb the natural balances of the body. And so that's why it's important that we teach to live in the moment, be more present, be in the moment, because most all of our disturbances that are buried in the unconscious have everything to do with something in the past, something that's over and done, but we're at the effect of it because we've never resolved it. It's so important to get out of the past and go with the flow of being in the moment. And that's a healing way to go. Even Shakespeare understood the role that we have within our minds. Shakespeare, and he was talking about this matter of healing, and it's where Shakespeare has Macbeth asking the doctor this, quote, "Canst thou not minister to a mind diseased? Pluck from the memory a rooted sorrow? Raise out of the written troubles of the brain? And with some sweet oblivious antidote, cleanse the stuffed bosom of that perilous stuff which weighs upon the heart?" The doctor replies, "Therein the patient must minister to himself." Get it? Okay, no doctor is going to be able to cure that, all right? You have to be working within the framework of your own self. And Jesus was all about that too. If you study all of the healings, virtually every healing that Jesus was present for, it had to do with a change of mind. It had to do with a shift, an altering of consciousness in some way, where a person had moved to an agreement in mind. And to the extent of the agreement, they got the healing. You know, it's what we call faith, of course. And Charles Fillmore, the co-founder of Unity, says that faith is the perceiving power of the mind linked with the power to shape substance. And so it's how you're perceiving, the perceiving power of the mind, how you're perceiving life and people and things that you're encountering and challenged with and so forth. And it's linked with the power to shape substance. What substance? Your body's substance, all right? So your perception is linked with the shaping of substance. It just is. That's the mind-body connection. And that's what he was talking about. So we all want to really be in consciousness, being lifted to new levels of perception. And if we can get ourselves out of harmony and into dis-ease, then we can also get ourselves back into harmony and back into ease. And so faith is really what can restore, again, an internal harmony. It's faith as opposed to fear. And so a few things that happened with Jesus. Jesus was coming into Cana in Galilee, and he had just made water into wine, and there was an official who came up to him, and his son was ill, and he begged him that he come to his son and heal his son because he was near to the point of death. And Jesus said to him, "You know, unless you see signs and wonders, you're not going to believe." And the official said to Jesus, "Oh, again, please come before my child dies." And then Jesus told him, "Okay, go ahead and go. Your son is going to live." And because the man believed the word of Jesus to be the truth, to be accurate, he went his way to where the son was and found his son, and his son was healed. That's one account. There's another story in the Bible about the two blind men. And they came to Jesus asking for mercy and asking to be healed. And it says in the passage, Jesus said to them, "Do you believe that I'm able to do this?" And they said, "Yes." And then he touched their eyes while saying, "According to your faith, be it done unto you." And their eyes were opened. So obviously there was enough of a shift inside of them that allowed that to happen. And another healing was when the woman who in Scripture says was diseased with the issue of blood for 12 years, came up behind Jesus, touched the hem of his garment, and the Bible states, quote, "For she said to herself, 'If only I touch his garment, I shall be well.'" Okay, that's a belief. Jesus turned to her, and seeing her, he said, "Take heart, daughter, your faith has made you well." And the woman instantly was made well. Were there any unsuccessful healings in the Bible? Yes, of course. You remember where a man brought his epileptic son to the disciples to be healed, and they couldn't heal him. And later, the disciples came to Jesus and said, why couldn't we heal the boy? And Jesus answered very frankly, "Because of your unbelief. You were not able to take a perception and really get to seeing beyond the condition. You aren't there yet. It's a process. It's a learning." And so we have 3 healing accounts where it was according to your faith, so be it done unto you. According to the accuracy of your perception, so be it done unto you. The accuracy of embracing the truth. And then we have one where it's not enough belief. It was a failure. Not an accuracy of perception with the whole being. We have to be participants, you know? God can only do for us what he can do through us. And so we are participants in the healing process. And much power goes into to how we frame something and how we label it. On the TV in news, there was a young boy who was, his parents were an avid fans of the Ohio Buckeyes. And this little boy, who was 10 years old, had cancer. And their big rival was Michigan. And so he told his parents and he told the doctors he refused to use the name cancer. He was not going to be fighting cancer. He was going to be fighting Michigan. And he would defeat Michigan. And it was working on the TV story. He was, they were getting reports of his healings happening and going into remission. Yesterday, Ohio played Michigan, Ohio State, and Ohio won 42-41. That little boy had a healing surge. You can believe it. But you see, yes, he refused to label something that carries with it so much power and fear and has a sequence of happenings and conditions that can play out, that the mind can grab hold of and fulfill. And there was something in him that understood the importance of that. We should never give up or feel hopeless. Never underestimate the many ways in which the forces and the energies of the divine can be directed and expanded through the physical being, through the soul, through the energies of the spirit. Whatever the wisdom that knows how to heal a scratch, that wisdom, that fine intelligence can also heal anything, anything. And so healing is happening all the time. Healing happens. It's happening in you this moment, the previous moment, the moment that you're in now. Healing is happening. Never underestimate that healing intelligence and presence and power. Know that healing happens. Visualize it, perceive it, be accurate, live the truth. God bless you all.
Happy holidays from Unity of Houston. I'm Reverend Howard Caesar.
And I'm Diane Caesar.
And we would like to invite you to join us Christmas Eve at our wonderful candle lighting services in which we celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ. We have wonderful soul-enriching music, and each and every person is given the opportunity to light a candle to feel their connection to God.
Our Christmas Eve services are at 4, 6, and 8 p.m.
And we'd also like to invite you to join us for our New Year's Eve services, in which we give everyone an opportunity to release the past and have a fresh, happy, fulfilling start of the new year.
Join us New Year's Eve at 6 and 8 p.m. And if you want more information and directions, please go to our website, unityhouston.org.
Thank you for joining us for today's message. We invite you to be with us again next Sunday. At Unity, we believe that God's presence of love and goodness is everywhere, and that life is meant to be good. You can find out more about Unity and our teachings at unityhouston.org.